All right, everybody, welcome to the Scho-Zone with a special guest today. It's your host, Ryan Schofield, and with me, we've got the Xander, the old man gamer here, Jason Alexander. Jason, you have been summoned upon to be the resident expert at golf on the Scho-Zone. How do you feel about your responsibilities?
I mean, it's a big responsibility, but I'm up to the challenge, I think.
I mean, what do you think happens? Do you think more people watch you play golf or more people are going to watch you talk about golf on this one? What are we going to set the market on that one for?
More people will watch me play golf, I
Okay,
think.
well, that's a goal for me. So, anyways, let's tell a little brief. I know about Jason as a golfer. Jason's a good friend of mine, but he also just has some expertise in this. And the reason I'm recording this episode right now is because it's a Wednesday afternoon. I have the day off from work. I'm sitting here recording a podcast in my living room, not playing golf. I think that's a problem, don't you?
I agree. Um,
Um,
Basically, I started golf when I was 5. My dad was a scratch golfer. He was a scratch golfer until he got the yips. I played golf at college. My handicap has fluctuated from a +1 to 1 handicap for my entire life. So,
Now, to put in perspective for that one, I usually think of the quote that Brian Scalabrine had about people that talk crap about him, where he would say, I'm closer to LeBron James than you are to me. So, to
yeah.
put that in perspective, because I feel like that golf handicaps are like Richter scales, where it's not like, the difference
Yeah.
between. So, would you say that you are closer to a tour golfer than you are to me? Would that be a fair assessment? I'm asking legitimately.
Man, I would think Scalabrini's probably right. It's just that so it's kind of twofold is your question. Like the difference between a 10 handicap to a 5 handicap isn't really that big. The difference between a 5 handicap and a scratch golfer is the Grand Canyon. And
Right.
then and then the difference between me and a tour player is probably like the Grand Canyon because they simply don't make mistakes, which is what makes them so better. It's
Well,
crazy.
I mean, I can only speak for the closest I could say. I mean, I'm your typical bogey golfer, or I might not even be that anymore. It's which is amazing though, because in a given round of golf, when you take 95 shots, 4 or 5 of them are going to look professional quality.
Oh yeah.
But where I was going with that though is you're kind of in the no man's land, because I always remember this is that you're kind of when you play with somebody like me, we're like, why aren't you doing this for a living? And
Yeah. Oh
and and,
no.
and if you played with somebody who does this for a living, they're like, hey, so you got a good day job, right?
Yeah. No, yeah, it is kind of funny. And the thing is with me, it's very easy. Like if I play with if I've played with tour players before and things like that. For me, it's the difference if I added 40 more yards. Like that ultimately is my biggest barrier from getting that far is that I drive the ball 260, 270. Just to be clear, most people who listen to this do not hit it that far.
Oh no.
300 300 yards is really rare for people to hit. And so it's like I would be, I told this as an example one time is it's like if I said I'm as good as LeBron James at basketball, other than I'm 4'11".
Gotcha.
So it's like, well, if you can't get to that 300 yards, then that's usually a God-given thing is the 300 yards,
The real reason that I had you on here to talk about, because I had sent you the text message last night. I recall you saying to this me a couple of years ago. For some strange reason, I happen to remember everything. But this was pre-COVID when I was first getting to know you and playing golf with you. You had mentioned that, the sport of golf is in trouble. And I remember you citing yourself of that, they were kind of starting to lose you a little bit
Yeah.
as far as you have been out of there. So this has been a trend going. So I sent you that tweet from yesterday, and it's staggering because I mean, me and my friends, it used to be the whole thing of that we would play golf as like, for married people or people with serious girlfriends, it's an excuse to hang out with a guy friend for a couple hours, because
For sure.
most other excuses to hang out with a guy friend for a couple hours are not exactly the things that wives or girlfriends want to hear. So at least in there, it's kind of somewhat acceptable, but we don't have any interest. I mean, one thing that sucks for me is I moved from Rochester, which is actually it's weird to think that Rochester, New York is really one of the best areas in
Oh,
the country to live in if you like golf.
it's fantastic.
I moved to
Yeah.
Albany where now it's like, all right, cool. Can I've got like one of 5 or 6 courses I can choose from. And the tee times are posted a week in advance. And if you don't jump on those, like you can't
They're
just
gone.
randomly decide, hey, anyone up for a quick 9 today?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think And I think that that is killing it. So I just want to go over a couple figures that were from there because, it's going even more, and it's starting to affect on the other end of it where, shit runs upstream too of that. I was just looking right now, the Masters were down 20% on viewers this year. It was the lowest rated Masters since 2023. So, I mean, obviously there's a lot going on even on the professional ranks where was this game really that dependent on Tiger Woods?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
really, they put all their eggs in that one basket. It seems like.
I think golf is facing for the PGA Tour. They're facing the live. So that's taken a lot of your brand name players and moving them over to the PGA Tour. Now, granted, they come back for the Masters, but it just doesn't feel the same. The Masters or professional golf is really in that it's such a time commitment. Like,
Oh, it's
when you watch a baseball was losing viewers and they were 4 hours. Uh, that the Masters is 4 straight days of 7 hours of golf. The pace is incredibly slow. They have slowed down the game to where the pros are playing 5.5 hours, 6 hour rounds. Even if Tiger Woods was in the mix, watching Tiger for 6 hours is really tough.
watching anything for that
Yeah,
long. But what is, I will say that they are keeping, and just like baseball, though, they are keeping the hardcores because I
yeah,
was just
for
actually
sure.
looking at one thing is that ESPN Plus, the most watched sports on there is golf, actually.
Yeah, it's because it's an addiction.
Well,
It's
what's
an addiction.
Well, part of the addiction is that betting on golf is unlike any other fucking. I talk about the gambler's drug, adrenaline, which is the combination of adrenaline, and golf is not for the weak of heart. As far as if you bet a 72 hole matchup, there is going to be a 10-shot swing sometime in the point of that round.
For sure. How was Rory McIlroy? Did you have Rory?
I didn't even know what was going
Ah,
on with any of that. Actually, I think that I made a mistake bet. I think I bet Cantley to be the leader at the end of round 3, and I accidentally bet him to be the leader of win the tournament.
okay.
But I still just wouldn't have liked watching it more to Rory. I mean, I don't have anything against
But by the
Rory
way,
necessarily.
you mentioned one of the main reasons. Patrick Cantley's a snooze fest to watch play golf. They can't even cover his pre-shot routine. They have to cut the camera away because it's a minute and a half it takes him to hit the damn golf ball.
Well, and
And that's absurd. And
well,
they all look so carbon copy now, whereas back in the day, like, thank God for Scheffler, he at least has a unique swing. But there was an art to watching Lee Trevino cutting the ball up the fairway, Arnold Palmer really holding his hands like that, and he'd shake his head. Even Jack Nicklaus, he was a tubby guy walking out and swinging at 130 miles an hour. John Daly, all these characters that were around the game, that it's become so static and so stale that it's almost made it uninteresting.
Well, that's the thing too, is I mean, just in my time there, I mean, I remember I caddied in a tournament and in the Troy Country Club where I worked and where I'm from, and there was a guy who actually ended up making it. His name was Brett Stegmeyer. You're
Yeah,
familiar with that name? I remember he was a college kid from Florida, and I mean, it just seemed like a robot,
yeah,
and
yeah.
it just
It's all robot swings. They're all going into the simulators and seeing how nobody would teach my golf swing now if you tried. I
well,
have a loopy, a very shallow swing. And so my swing would never be taught. Lee Trevino's would never be taught. Most of these players would all be kind of almost outcast because they're not a robo up, down, like the Luke Cantleys of the world and the Shipleys and the Dunlaps. Their swings are the exact same.
Well,
You
I
can't
think
tell
that
the
that could
difference.
actually expand to even all sports, though, is that it seems like there's very few unique motions. Like, every basketball player has the same jump shot now.
Yeah.
Most hitters, I mean, it just seems like that being unique, they've kind of gotten rid of that where it used to be, hey, this is what this guy does. Let's embrace it. Let's play to the strengths of it. Now it's like, hey, let's make everybody the same.
Yeah.
Uh,
And I think, you see that, in terms of they're all signed to the same sports agents and they're all signed to the same. So you're not going to get too many John Daly's anymore.
Well,
You know,
also too, golf. I mean, when I watch that Full Swing show, it's like every golfer is a gym rat now.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Like You know, and I mean, that just makes me love John Daly every more, just the idea of that, they do his pre-game routine and, the whole, the redundant quote of that you can't pull fat or anything. But that's actually what I miss out of sports. And that's why I think that we're really hurting in a lot of things. I want guys who are just naturally good at games, not guys who are engineered into being good at games.
Yes.
Um,
And nowadays with the equipment and the technology, with the simulators and things like that, people like me are kind of a throwback. Like I played, and I'm 47, by the way. I'm not ancient. But when I played the game, your job was to keep it between the lines. So you hit a 250-yard drive that was dependable, that worked every time, and then your next shot would be fine. Now the way that they're designing golf courses, they're 7,200 yards.
right.
If you're not hitting it 300 yards, you really realistically can't play at 7,000 yards.
Well,
I mean,
that
it's
mean
very difficult.
I can speak to that the one time that I played at a PGA course, and the person who wanted us to play there decided we should play from the tips. And I was just like,
Yeah.
I'm barely able to, and I hit about that distance that you hit off the tee, and I'm like, I need to grab lumber to hit the par fours and two off of this.
Yeah.
So it's like, which I do laugh about that one is that, it is like, the 300-yard drive. Is that one of the most overly exaggerated everyman claims? Like,
Yes.
don't get me
There's
wrong,
no other claim that's bigger.
because I think people confuse this. I have hit 300-yard drives. Let's not confuse that with
For
I hit the
sure.
ball 300 yards.
Yes.
I have hit a 350-yard drive. We can leave out the part that it was on an elevated tee box with a tailwind,
Yep.
and I happened to stripe it on some dry ground, but
Yeah.
that goes there. But I remember one time, actually, I took a video of a shot I did, and I said something about the drive went 270, and someone was like, yeah, right. I'm like, why would I lie about 270? It's
Yeah.
not that impressive, and it's, that's about what I do. So actually, I played golf with these same guys, and in the very first tee box, they're like, we better be ready to see this. And this was first thing in the morning after a frost delay in Lake Placid. And I hit one like 255. And they were like, oh shit, maybe he actually does. But it's like, that's another thing too. I think the golf culture of that, golfers in general have become annoying. Like you are actually one of the better golfers that I know. And I have to ask you to talk about golf.
Yeah.
It's a really big thing that, it's an expression I've heard of that when you're good at something, you tell people. When you're great at something, people tell you. I feel like most golfers only do it just to have something to talk about themselves.
I would agree. I would agree 100% because I think I can always I was a self-taught golfer, so I kind of most of the stuff that I have, I don't really like to explain to other people. But like if you're really good at golf, you understand if you're 100, if you're this is one of my favorite stats. Tiger Woods at his best, at his apex from 100 yards from the green, missed the green 25% of the time. Like
That's
so the greatest golfer who ever lived, playing as great as he ever played from 100 yards, missed the green 1 in 4 shots from 100 yards. You think me and you, two screw ups, should complain if we hit it 50% of the time?
well, and that's what I would go on of that. Like, you can see the differences of the layers because when I play with guys like you or guys who, like, again, I'm in the 15 probably handicap range or so, maybe, more towards 18 now or so. But when I play with the people who are lucky to break 100, they look at a shot that I hit and they're like, oh, it's a nice shot. And I'm like, no, I missed the spot I was aiming by 3 inches or so.
Yeah.
Whereas that's what it comes down to. I caddied for somebody who was probably around your skill level. And the idea that aiming for a zone on the green maybe was where I'm trying to hit the green.
Yeah.
They're trying to hit a zone on the green.
Yeah.
And the guys that are above that, they actually have the exact spot they're trying to hit.
Yes, the exact spot.
But that's where I think that some of these things get held up, though, is that because we have a little bit more access to these guys, like I swear that there are some golfers that watch professional golfers that think that they are relating to what's going on television, which is just absolutely asinine.
Well, I mean, that this actually, I think what you're talking about is more of a sociological thing, how there's a difference between knowing something and understanding something.
Okay.
If you look up, oh, I'm going to look up stuff and watch it. Do I understand what's going on? No, they don't fucking know what's going on. When I hit a shot, I know exactly what my club face is doing when I go through impact. I know I can tell you if it's open, closed, fat, thin. I can tell if I'm twisting it. I can tell if it's high off the place. I can tell you which groove I hit it off of. I
Well,
could pick up my club and go, I hit it there with my eyes closed. 99% of the population, you couldn't do that. You may think you can do that, but you can't.
I
And
have an idea of what I did wrong, but I ultimately, what I don't know how to do is to do the a direct fix of it. I know how to
no, I
adjust
know.
for it. We'll
Yeah.
just say, okay, it's like I usually look at the after the third hole, I figure out what shitty swing I've got that day, and then sometime around the 12th hole, I end up fixing that swing, and then now I've got a new problem on my hands.
Yeah,
But you had brought something up about the 5 and 6 hours thing. That's a big reason why I'm not out on the golf course right now.
yeah.
I don't enjoy anything except for when I used to drink. I don't enjoy doing anything for 5 hours straight. It's really, really tough.
Yeah. No, even though when you texted me this morning, I had to actually think I probably play 18 holes once a month now.
It's
I play a lot of 9 holes. Like if I'll play early in the morning when no one's on the golf course, so I can play 9 holes and I can be done in an hour and 15 minutes, you know.
and that's that's a loss. But it's the other thing too. I really feel like that we would really improve golf. This is my proposed idea of had because again, I wanted to go back to some of these stats that I had about what has happened with golf and why there is a real trouble in hand. I mean, as far as watching at the professional level, but as far as the participation, so this guy presented this guy's name is I'm looking at it right here. His name was Jared Doffler, and he said that golf has a problem. Golf rounds were around 500 million tee times in 2006, and that's when the decline started. In 2019, there were 441 million rounds, which means we have lost 59 million rounds of golf, which probably on the court for a country, not so much, but it's heading in that wrong direction. We've lost 2,000 golf courses in this area, and there's been 18 consecutive years of negative golf course supply. So it's continuously going down, which means now there's only so many courses open, which means that these tee times are getting hard to come by. These guys have to make a business out there. Everything costs more. So they are stacking tee times on top of tee times. And really, I think that half the people that are out there for the wrong reasons. I think that one thing you could do that would get this game back to where it could be a little bit is if you got rid of golf carts.
Yes. Yeah, that would be fantastic.
Because there should be the booze. I hate saying this. There should be booze-free golf courses because some people are there for the outdoor bar and some people are there to actually play the game.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of a casual mixture, but I'm seeing now constantly where it's, when you have ththese 5-hour rounds, people are getting impatient and they are drinking. You know what ends up happening? Somebody hits into somebody.
Yeah.
And especially where if you get I'm already a hot tempered ginger. When I get under the sun for 4 hours, it doesn't take much, especially when playing shitty golf. And I'm trying not to get upset at myself for being shitty at golf, but I got to get upset at something. So I will usually find an opposing golfer or somebody to get upset about her. Usually it seems like that if I'm golfing now, I spend most of the time not as focused with my next shot in my game, but more about what the group ahead of me is doing that's pissing me off.
No, I think golf for one, it was like everything else. Prices have really gone up. The golf course business was never profitable to begin with. Most people don't understand that. That's a lot of land you have to take care of, and that's a lot of taxes you have to pay. So golf courses by nature don't really make a lot of money. Second, you've seen a big drastic drop off locally around community ran golf courses. So that like a city of Syracuse or a city of Rochester used to have a really deep tradition of public owned golf courses. That's kind of gone away. That's kind of going away the Jaybird just because there's such a financial drain. You also finding pros to run golf courses well. A professional golfer at the club level, it's a very underpaid position. They work a lot of hours. They have a lot of stress. They're there in the morning and they're there when it closes, and they get paid 50 grand a year, maybe.
And you're a servant for, let's face it, golf's a rich guy's sport for the most part. And you get to deal with, which I kind of think is also a thing of hurting it. It seems like we're getting away from as like quote unquote rich guy behavior in this country a little bit, where there's also a little part of me too, and this could be a little bit, wrong, and hear me on this one. This is a hot take of mine, I guess, but I feel like that baseball and golf, because of the status that they had and how they were, let's face it, a little bit exclusive, for all the wrong reasons on there. I feel like that once people were able to get into that barrier and kind of, just to establish the ranks, then they realize, well, what the fuck? This isn't that much fun anymore.
Yeah.
Like there's no,
No,
you know,
I think with golf, one of the things that's hurt golf, in my opinion, the most is that there was a time 20 years ago, 30 or 40 years ago, even, before Facebook, LinkedIn, things like that. Me and you would have me and you reaching some sort of success level would join a golf course. That became our status symbol. That became what we did. That became how we lived our lives. We would network within that community of the golf course, all the rich, wealthy people.
yeah.
So you take that part away, meaning that unless you're joining a real exclusive golf club, the status of joining a country club is not a big deal anymore.
The only thing
Yeah.
it is preferred tee times,
Yeah.
which is actually, it actually matters enough.
Yeah. But at the same time, it doesn't provide you the value for what they want. So like if like Cavalry Club, the golf course I joined,
Great
has
place, by the
raised their
way.
initiation fee to $20,000. Are you
That's,
fucking kidding me?
yeah, no,
Why
there's,
would anybody pay that? The only people who pay that are exorbitantly wealthy. And by the way, there aren't many people
or they're
that
probably
make
using a
that much
business to
money.
write it off.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's really what it comes down to. And, I just think that that's kind of lost. And to the extent, too, is that I kind of feel like that the attitude, and I kind of call this like the bar stool effect a little bit, but I've noticed that the vibe at an all you can drink scramble has kind of entered into the regular Saturday on the golf course.
Yeah.
That's kind of become another, but you touched on Jack Nicklaus in there, Jack Nicklaus, and I always confuse the two names, or especially when I'm talking about
who doesn't?
But Jack Nicklaus, and you did mention the equipment thing. That's another thing too. I mean, I use probably the TaylorMade Burner 420 is the driver I use. I think that thing was brand new sometime around the turn of the millennium or so. I still give that thing a decent poke. There are guys that have, if I was to buy a new driver, like that was actually a buddy of mine that was a college golfer. When he was saying, he was like, these new swing tech is just, it's obscene. Like he actually was somebody, he's like, I do hit the ball 300 yards. He's like, I shouldn't.
Yeah.
But because of the stick I have there,
I hit the ball. I'm 47. I hit the ball farther today than at any point of my entire life. I should not be any there. I was at my golf apex when I was, 20. That's 27 years ago. I shouldn't be doing anything as well as I was doing it 27 years ago. There is nothing that I should do as well
right?
today as I should 27 years ago. I mean, you crazy?
I mean, I deal with this in softball too, where it's like, okay, like, we play against these guys and it's like, cool, you've got the most corked bat, or you've got this bat that should really be illegal, and you hit home runs with it and you get to go tell your coworkers about it. Again, it's all this whole thing of like, I just always swear that there's plenty of people, because the reason I like playing golf is, there's always one person in a foursome that just can't have a good time.
Yeah, for sure. Well, there's always one angry person.
Right. And those people should just be, they should be excommunicated from the rounds. Like you should be able to vote somebody. Like that's really what your golf should be. It should be 18 holes and you vote somebody off the island after every hole.
Yeah, there should be, there should be like at half, if your buddy's struggling, you should just, it's time for you to go home and be able to leave.
The people that actually are counting up their score on the fourth hole, like, oh, geez, I'm already at 22, right? Well, then fucking, you came here for the wrong reason, bro. Like, it's a long.
Okay, so I think what they could do to improve tee times and to improve place of play is to teach people what the expectation is, and you can play fast sucking. I do not mind playing with somebody who shoots 100 as long as they do it fast.
Keep it moving.
Yeah,
you give it
moving.
Keep a customary looking for a ball, but if you're not shooting for score, we ain't holding up the round over it.
Yeah, this isn't the US Open. Like you're not getting paid for this. If you're behind a tree, fucking move it. Like who cares? Like what are you doing?
Yeah,
like,
you're gonna write down whatever score you want to, but ultimately just keep those things in mind. Like golfers, the other thing too is that every golfer, I always love this. My dad's favorite expression is, we ask how, not how many. Or we ask, I didn't ask how, I asked how many. Because if you ask somebody, you see somebody, like if I saw you in public wearing that outfit, I'd be like, oh, did you play golf today? You'd say yes. And I'd say, oh, how'd you hit him? I don't really care. You give me, oh, well, long and often, whatever the hell you want to say like that. People that give you your round by round recap and tell you all the reasons that they should have shot a better score. Never mind the ball that they hit that kicked off the tree that went back in the middle of the fairway. Because again, apparently everyone's just supposed to par every hole.
Yeah, well, you're not. Yeah, you're not.
No, but that's the way that people make it seem like, oh, geez, like I shot a 46, but I took a triple on there. Okay, so you shot a 46 with a triple.
Yeah.
Like, were you supposed to par that hole? Because if that's the case, but Rory McIlroy, they would have just stopped playing the tournament the other day. He should have,
I think pace of play is what really causes the most issues, because from my experience, if I play a round of golf by myself, walking, I can be done in 2.5 hours, no issues. Now, granted, you are playing with 4 people, so I'm not saying that you should be that fast, but I think 3.5 hours is a very realistic expectation for you to play a round of golf in. And people don't, I play with guys all the time who shoot 90, who their practice routine is 10 minutes.
Right, and it's like I usually say to those guys, you wasted a good one somewhere in the practice routine. Like,
literally, you should take one practice swing. You should get behind your ball. You should pick a spot that you're aiming at, address the ball, count to 1, 2, 3, and then hit. That's literally what you should do.
So I actually probably, because you would probably say you've played with me, I probably need to slow it down a little bit. And that's actually the one thing I did do, is that I don't even really, it's one practice swing. I turn around 3 steps back, and then I face the ball and I walk up to it, club down, hit it. The only time I'm taking a practice swing is if I have to do something with my short game where, I want to get a little bit of a feel for that. And of course, even when that happens, you know what happens? The one that I intend to be my last practice swing, I'll usually catch a little bit of the ground, and now I just go and fucking, just, ready to go. But even so, people again, for the regular golfer, they want to, oh, what's the yardage you got from here? You really have a club that if I tell you a distance, you can hit it that far, it's maybe the 10 out of 10% things. Another thing,
but like speeding up the things of golf, things like pace, get to the rhythm of the ball, see the shot. I think golf made a really good adjustment by not making you pull out the flag anymore. I think that was that adds a lot more time to a game. And I think golf's going to start nipping at the edges, similar to the way baseball is. First off, there should no longer be an out of bounds on any golf course. No. We're done with that. It should be a red stake. You hit it there, you take 1 stroke penalty, you drop where you hit it. Because you know what? If you lose a ball, look at your teammates and go, look at the rest of the foursome and say, hey, I can't find my ball. It was here, around here.
We know where it entered.
Yeah.
Everyone knows about where, well, that's the other thing. Everyone should know where it entered, which, I'm one of the worst to do with this one. These should be banned from the golf course.
Oh, yeah.
And that's given the the occupation that I once held and everything, and I'm the worst accuser of it, but I'll say this does nothing but distract me. Yes, I do have my swing app on there that I log my score in, but I also have every other reason to distract me with this thing, which is a couple minutes a hole times 18. That adds up if you get them in and out of there. And also, I think to the extent too, and I saw what this was going to be, they didn't want to necessarily classify the tees using the age and gender type thing. Yeah. They want to do it just based on a skill level now, which I totally believe in too.
Yes. In my opinion, if you can't break 80 from the whites, you can't play the blues. And if you can't break 80 from the blues, you can't play from the tips. Like, it's a real, I'm somebody who I can play from all tees because I hit it far enough and my skill level is enough for me to get around. You know what I'm saying? Like at 7,200 yards, yeah, it's going to be a struggle, but at least I could theoretically do it. I see some of these yahoos playing from the tips, and it's like, what are you doing? You should play from the red tees.
But they want to say that because they can say they play from the tips. That's literally what it is. It's like, and I guess I go on with this one too, because I have had some of the worst experiences I've had, and we're almost running out of time on this one. Some of the worst experiences I have had have been with people who, they see me golfing and they start talking it up, and you go golfing with them and they say, oh yeah, they'll tell you how good they are. And then you see them and it's like, you can tell if you play regularly, and I'm not great, but you can tell seeing somebody swing a golf club if they've ever scored a good score in their life. Yeah. And it's pretty obvious. And I don't understand that. It's like the guy who lies to a girl about, hey, I've got a 9-inch cock. with the intentions of that he wants to use it with her sometime, you're going to be revealed at some point. You can't just hope for the greatest dick day of your life when you finally take it out. Like, so I don't understand. There are people that seem to set themselves up for, I'm going to tell people I shoot in the 80s, and then when I randomly shoot a 105, oops, just the wrong day. Like,
Yeah. And golf is, and you had texted me about it. I truly believe that you know everything you need to know about somebody by watching them on a golf course.
which is also another reason I don't want to play golf with people, because I'll tell you, they should have men be the cart guys. All right. Because that's
Yes.
also the biggest holdup too. And it's one of the most uncomfortable parts of playing golf is watching people sexually harass the cart girl.
Yes, it's never fun. And by the way, it's not a good look. It's not a
It's
good look.
no, it's, I mean, like it is what it's, I mean, again,
It's one of those techniques where the way that you actually get the cart girl's number is to totally ignore her. 'Cause then
exactly. No, well, because I mean, usually, being a younger guy playing golf, I've played with some older guys, and it's like, yes, by me just shutting up, I look pretty good right now.
yeah, you're making me feel good about myself.
But
But, things
that's
about pace of play, if you're slow, move out of the way. Let the people play through behind you. Everybody's become so snowflakey. Like, rangers should be a part of every golf course, and they should be driving around the golf course. And if you're slow, hey, fuckhead, move over, get off to the side.
right.
You know,
Or they should really start documenting, like, hey, like the first group off the tee, like every day, they should see how long it took you to get from, like, and if you, based on that one, you are exempt from any tee times this early in the day. Like,
yeah, no,
I
for
mean,
sure. And you have to be mean about it, because it is one of the things that I think that the golf course that you've been to and I play at, Cavalry Club, the greatest thing they ever did is they don't have tee times. I had heard that and I went, that's that when I before I joined it, I went, that doesn't make any sense. Well, how do we know? It's the greatest thing in the world, because everybody goes until there's 4 people on the tee, you can't tee off. You can't hog up a tee time for your 11:12, but now you're waiting until 11:14 to tee off. It's when you're ready, tee off. Are you ready? No, you're not. These people are teeing off first.
well,
It's great.
I can say that there's like a microcosm to society as far as the decay of etiquette. I mean, like this is
Yeah.
one that will, and I told you about this. I've had this happen like 3 times in the past couple of years. People want to play a fivesome. You guys can play a foursome. I'm out of here.
Yeah, I hate fivesomes. It's just
Anything, the latch on. Now, I understand maybe like, end of the day when like the stick, if you're playing late enough where the sticks have been pulled kind of thing,
yeah.
like,
Yeah, where there's no one on the golf course and you're just having fun, maybe then, but not
but
on not on a normal day.
but they've gotten out of that too. If you've noticed now, most places just do a twilight after a certain time, and then that's, you want to fucking see hell on earth, a twilight. That's
Yeah.
where people just go, all right, we're just gonna ride over to that tee because it looks like it's open right now.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. And it becomes like a total free for all.
so I've
No,
got,
I mean, I think golf is really in trouble because it's very expensive. The costs are going up for everything, as we know. Golf has always struggled to keep itself available to most people. They're losing that because of simple things like tee time, the pace of play, how long it takes. Jack Nicklaus had a really good idea where he believes that golf courses should be designed on 3 6 holes. So it should be 6-hole loops, 6-hole loops, 6-hole loops. That way you could say, hey, this is men's time. We're playing 6 holes.
and not for nothing, unless you're playing golf regularly, 18 holes is a fucking lot of golf.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
sounds like nothing, but I mean, I like when I play maybe once a month now too myself, and it's like, yeah, by around hole 12, 13, I'm kind of, I got my fill.
Yeah. And also, if you're somebody like me, I get there an hour early. I warm up. I go through the putting green.
Well,
I go
47, you
through-
have to loosen up.
Yeah, I go to the chipping green. I get my feels. Then I get onto the golf course, and then it's 4 more hours. And then, of course, you're going to hang out with your buddies for another 2 hours afterwards. So it ends up being a whole day thing. And unless you have a really understanding girlfriend these days, women don't like you to be gone from 7 in the morning till 7 at night anymore.
I bit the bullet on that one. My golf problem was actually worse than my drinking problem at one point in time, as far as my girlfriend was concerned. But that's another thing you mentioned too, though, was with the putting thing. Everyone just wants to fucking hit the ball off the tee. We just want to like the big dog eats. But the biggest difference as to why I have my handicap and why you have your handicap,
It's
I've seen
fun.
you not be able to get off the tee and still break par
Yeah.
because you told me something, you used to end every session with 50 straight 5-foot putts or something like that.
Yeah, I used to make 50 straight 5-foot putts. And that was part of the practice routine that I did. So, like on average, I average about 26 putts around. That's generally my average.
Which is where
You know,
you make up all your bones
yeah,
there.
that's exactly. I mean, people. So there is a truth to hitting it far to lower scores. There is a truth to that. But there are some things you just can't get around. And you hit your peak of distance, you're not going to be ever hit at 300 yards. So if you could play, like Gary Player used to always say, you hit the first 2 shots and I'll take it from there, and you would be under par. Because Gary Player would get up
Yeah.
and down 18 times. You know, he didn't
It's
care. As long as you were around the green, he could get up and down. So really spend less time off the tee and more time putting. More time
it's
putting and chipping.
it's not as fun, but all right, I got a couple minutes left because I have to upgrade my storage on this thing. And I do want to ask you one question because I feel like this might be a hot take to some people, but I know it's one that you're passionate about. I recently saw something where they listed the GOAT of every sport and they listed it as Tiger Woods. And I don't believe that that is your answer. So I want you to explain to everybody why Jack Nicklaus is that much better than Tiger Woods. Or am I wrong that you think that?
No, you're 100% right. Jack, so like uh the Jack Nicklaus, the thing that people don't recognize, and it's kind of been lost through time, is number one, Jack Nicklaus, golf's easy. Golf's the easiest of all the sports to see who the best of all time
Oh, I
is.
should say, I was like
It's who won the most. Well, it's Jack Nicklaus. He won 18 majors. Not only did he win 18 majors, he finished second 21 times and he finished third 19 times.
and didn't he win a
He,
major at 49?
yeah, 46.
46, okay.
He has the most majors and more top 5 placements by, it's not even close. But you know, take that for what it is. Tiger Woods was always more of a front runner. Jack was always more of the, I'm just going to play my game and you have to beat me. The thing that I always say that differentiates why I think that Jack is simply better than Tiger is that Jack Nicklaus wasn't just long. Like, people have a failure to remember just how long he was. Jack Nicklaus was the longest player on tour, and he was the straightest driver on tour.
So
So not only did he hit it as far as Bryson DeChambeau, but he hit it as straight as anybody on tour.
and
So
also was one of the best putters too,
he
correct?
was a great putter. He was a great putter. But the important thing is that at the age of 59, they did a swing speed on him. It was the first time and only time he ever had his swing speed registered. And at 59 years old, with 2 hip surgeries, clocked in at 119 miles per hour with his driver.
And Tiger
That's,
won't be able to swing a club at 59.
yeah, that's faster than, I think it was all but 7 current players on tour. So Lee Trevino has the best quote about it. He always said Jack hit it so far that he would be chipping back. In 1961, with a wood driver, an actual wood driver with a steel shaft with leather wrappings on a balata ball, which the ball was squishy. Jack hit it 341 in the PGA tour, in a PGA championship. 341. Jack Nicklaus would realistically, not exaggerating, not hot takey, would realistically be driving around 350, and he would be the straightest driver on tour. He was so much further than everybody else that it was almost comical. Now, Tiger, where Tiger's strength would lie, is Tiger was simply the best putter who ever lived. But Jack was just simply, he could never keep up with Jack on the distance. Jack would wear him down.
All right. I'm about to get cut off because I'm going to have to
All
leave
right.
storage. Jason, I appreciate you having you on. That was a wonderful way to end it. And we will do this again at some point too. Thanks.